action in the comments as we go along. Gordon, I'm once again in your first floor of your spacious apartment here on East Austin. You're on the second floor, the more luxurious studio, I'll say.
Appreciate that. And for those who are tuning in, Kevin, whose second favorite team is the Milwaukee Bucks. Kevin, you're in good news here. This is an NBA podcast for the next 20 seconds, just so you know. It got returned back to a 2-pointer. Tie game, 1 second left. Milwaukee has the ball. They're going to take a side out with 1 second left. We won't do play-by-play of this final game 7. Let's talk about track and field. Another great day of action. We had more people get a lot of DQs, reinstatements, some interesting semifinals, people making the final, not expecting to, people not making the final, expecting to. A lot of creative things happened in day 2 already. What should we start with first, though?
We got to start with the headline is Sha'Carri Richardson. The headline is going to continue to be Sha'Carri Richardson, it feels like, until she stops running. Listen, she runs that semi. And I know it was wind dated, but she goes 10.65 in a semi. We're not used to seeing 10.6s. And I know this year we've seen a couple throughout the world, but it still is a jaw-dropping moment when you see someone post a 10.6. And then all the questions turn to the final and how fast she would go in the final. She's kind of gone beyond, hey, is she going to win the U.S. trials? It's now, hey, is she going to be able to put up a historic mark? And she runs a 10.8 into the headwind, which was insanely impressive. But this is the Sha'Carri. I mean, people have been saying it's the Sha'Carri show. It's the Sha'Carri show. What did you think of her actually going out there and doing it, Gordon? Yeah,
like you said, prelim time is PR time. She runs, albeit a wind 8 at 10.6 in the semis. And she just clearly is the class of the field. I was kind of shocked the way the final played out because she was in like 3rd or 4th after 25 meters, after 50 meters. She really didn't get control of the race until the final 30-ish meters. And then once she caught up to the field, it was all she wrote. And she kind of just pulled away, easily winning by, almost 0.2 of a second, which is just like a dominating win for the 100, obviously. So it looked like she was kind of conservative in this race. I think she was kind of just maybe the 10.6 in the previous prelim kind of took a lot more out of her than we expected, and she didn't have the greatest first 60% of this race, but she's so good that she can afford to have an easygoing first 60% and then close that final 40% like world class. So her winning, I thought, was inevitable. Time was what we expected. I think, though, the big story coming out of this 100 is who got second and third. Mm-hmm. Literally a week ago, we had the college kids throwing down incredible times, and we're thinking, oh my God, Cambria Sturgis, Tamara Clark, Tanisha Terry, they're truly in the conversation to be on Team USA. None of them make the final, and it's the vets. The vets are the ones who make the teams. Tiana Daniels comes on strong finally when it mattered most after kind of a low-key regular season, gets third, and Geneva Oliver gets second, breaking 11 seconds in that headwind. Veteran and experience clearly matters, and I think it showed here. You look at the final, everyone was a vet, Even Candace Hill, who's like she's a young vet because she's been pro for a few years now, but there was no college kids in this final. It was all people who have been on the pro circuit, and that's what it took to make the team. And you wonder if this is going to translate over to the men's events, over into the 200s. Is it going to be experience is key for making U.S. teams in the sprint events?
Mm-hmm. And how much did that 1 week break matter for the collegians? Would it have been better if it was 3 weeks? Would it have been worse if it was 3 weeks? But credit to Daniels and Oliver for rising to the occasion. I mean, this is the second time Daniels has made a team. And in 2019, when she made the team, she came back after, losing that NCAA championship race on her home track to Sha'Carri Richardson. And she made the team, and she found a way again to make the team. Prandini 4th, Thomas 5th, Gardner 6th, Hobbs in 7th, but was a late reinstatement after she was disqualified from her semi heat in what was just a bizarre set of circumstances. Gordon, what did you think about that?
Yeah, it's kind of weird hey, every time you have these false starts and hey, did it happen, did not happen, if there's any sort of question mark, you got to let them run under protest, right? Just let the race play out and DQ them after, especially in a semifinal. Like, no one's getting hurt by her being in her lane in that semifinal. It kind of probably screwed up Leah Hobbs in the end because she then had to wait and get last minute added to the start line in this final. So I think in general, every time I see false starts, unless it's obvious, it's like, okay, you're out. But in that situation, there was no false start there. I mean, did you think there was a false start in that semifinal?
The thing is, it shouldn't matter what I thought because the block should tell us this. There are sensors there that let us know exactly how much movement, if any, there was. You saw Thomas obviously move and make a big move out of the blocks. Anybody could have seen that. But the question was, did Hobbs flinch a little bit before that, and was Gabby Thomas reacting to it? And I think obviously it did have an impact on her emotionally. That's incredibly draining. She was, you could see in tears when the cameras were following her, and then she has to come back. And I don't know at what point she was actually added and when she found out. I mean, NBC said it like literally like right before they were walking onto the track, and it was as if Aaliyah Hobbs like came out of the bleachers to run, the way they were describing it. But you don't know how much prep time she actually had, but it certainly is not ideal way for her to get into that final. But 9 lanes, the 9-lane track came in handy for the folks in Eugene tonight, being able to add Hobbs. That's a nice luxury to have.
Yeah, and fellow FloTrack podcaster, Serenity Douglas, she tweeted, Tiana Daniels, her dad would be so proud. She's the underdog. She's the one slept on. I'm so proud of her with the burnt orange hearts. They're both former teammates together at UT. For those who don't know the story, Tiana Daniels and her dad, I believe her dad passed away. So dealing with, family, there's a lot of mental aspect to track and field. And every time someone is dealing with a family situation, whether it's a death in the family or just a hardship that you're going through, a lot of times you kind of package all that emotional energy into your sport. And sometimes you run for, your fallen siblings or fallen parental figures. We just heard on the broadcast, like live at the end of that race, was Sha'Carri Richardson announced that her mom passed away within the few weeks. So you don't know what these athletes are going through. And that's like an incredible thing to be having to go through, especially during the most important month of your life, where making your first Olympic team is all you're thinking about. And then just to have a family member pass so close to that, it can do one of two things. It can tear you apart and you kind of fall apart at this type of event, or you can take all the energy and just kind of run for that fallen family member. And clearly Sha'Carri Richardson did that today.
Mm-hmm. A bit more on Sha'Carri Richardson, because I think the public is going to get more and more familiar with her in the lead up to these Olympics. And she's unique, not just in the world of track and field, but in sports in general, right? You don't see somebody with this combination of personality and ability out there. And I think she's obviously perfectly tailor-made for the current era of sports and sports media right now. And she's just going to be great to watch. She doesn't hold anything back. She lets her opinions be known. She celebrates after that. Sorry, I shouldn't even say after. During the semifinal, she points at the clock from 20 meters out. She's basically calling her shot. Say, look at that clock. I mean, we just don't see it that often at this level. And it's going to be a new experience for track and field, and I think a new experience for the public in general, the sporting public, when they learn more and more about her heading into Tokyo.
And the U.S. fan base is kind of eating it all up, and like they're enjoying it because they know that she's the favorite and her winning. But the international fan base, they're getting a little teed off by this, newcomer, first never been at a world championship runner, like, calling out Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price, saying that she's you just be like, whoa, how dare you call out a generational talent like Shelly Ann? But she's like, whatever, I'm going to run 10.6 right now. Hey, I can run 10.5. Why not? Justin Gatlin said in his post-race press conference, he thinks that Sha'Carri has a chance to run in the 10.5s. I don't know. Obviously, it's just an opinion, but I mean, the way she's running and she's young, I can see the next 3 years she flirts with 10.5s, maybe, dare I say, a 10.49. I don't know. That would be incredible. But she's going to be a fun one to watch these next 5 years. I can't wait.
Yeah, regardless of the time that she runs, she's a show. And I think that's the important thing. It's not just, yes, she's going to win, but whether or not she ran 10.8 tonight or 10.7 for the final, it didn't matter. You're hanging on every word. You're watching everything that she does after she crosses the line. It's just magnificent and wildly entertaining to watch. I mean, you put her against every sport you could go through, usually has somebody kind of like this, somebody who people just can't take their eyes off of. And right now in track and field, that person is Sha'Carri Richardson.
Yeah. So team Sha'Carri, Oliver, and Daniels. Making the relay team will be Jenna Prandini, Gabby Thomas, and English Gardner. English Gardner finding a way to get top 6, make an Olympic team. Gabby Thomas making her first Olympic team. She'll be coming back and hopefully make an individual team in that 200. And Jenna Prandini, I got a feel for her. She was running on fire in 2019, then got hurt and wasn't able to run in any of the finals. And now she's back and going to be able to represent Team USA on that relay. So good for her, for Jenna Prandini. 2 ducks, right? Prandini and Gardner making it
and
Gardner on that 4x1.
Gardner had talked in the press conference earlier about having COVID and dealing with it for a long time, the after effects of it. But the fact that she's able to pull it off at her college track, along with that was a great performance for English Gardner, right? Like obviously she would have loved top 3, but to get on the team, that was a huge performance for her.
Oh yeah, for sure. What's next to talk about?
Let's go to the 400s. Yeah, I think we should go to the 400s because those were semis down to finals. On the men's side of things, Michael Cherry looked good, 44.50. Michael Norman, 44.74. I have not checked in on Michael Johnson and what he thinks about Michael Norman's performance. And did he look confident enough out there? How did he look? That's the key part. And 4 collegians advanced in total, Gordon.
Yeah, both North Carolina A&T boys, both make it into that final. Randolph Ross having a much better performance than he did yesterday, running 44.8. Trevor Stewart got in with his 45.0. And Bryce Dedman snuck in, getting 8th. I was surprised, not going to lie. Noah Williams, LSU indoor 400-meter NCAA champ, got 2nd outdoors to Ross. Didn't have enough to make it into this final in this field. I was called out by LSU many months ago when we were projecting who can make our top 3, and I flew off. I said, not Noah Williams. It's indoors. And then he goes out and has an incredible regular season. And then I hopped. And then unfortunately, I took all of that backlash and I decided to join them and be on the Noah Williams train. And now look where it got me. Now he's not making the final. But it's okay. Noah Williams, I think he's only a sophomore at LSU. Yeah. He's going to have a good career. He's going to lick his chops. I think this is one of his first USA's. So lick his wounds. Lick his wounds. Yeah. Not the chops. Yeah.
Listen,
pork chops.
Four collegians.
He'll be fine.
Four collegians made the final. That's still pretty good. Yeah. And not every collegian was going to be able to have like the race, of their life 2 weeks in a row. That was, I don't want to say that's too much to ask, but just the odds were in the favor. We know how deep the NCAA 400 meters is, right? So it's going to produce a really good result. And 4 guys got through. It wasn't the same order as NCAA's, but that's what happens when you have variance out there, right?
Yeah. What women's 400? Hey, Allison Felix, 6th fastest mark out of the 8 that qualified. What's your heat measure on Allison Felix making this team? If she comes in, she ran 51.01. She got 2nd in her heat, but the other heat, their top 4 all ran 50.5 or faster. Quinnier Hayes led the way with the 50.07. Jonathan coming into form with the 50.2. Whitney PR'd again, 50.3. There's a lot of 50 points now in this field. Allison Felix is not a sure thing, I don't think. Do you think she can make top 3?
Oh, I think she can make top 3. I don't think she's a sure thing. And I'm looking more at how she finished in that heat, because we know how variable these things are from heat to heat. And I have no doubt she could have gotten in that top group if she was in heat 2. But Quinera Hayes, hats off to her. 50.07, that was solid. Wildland Jonathan is getting better every round. So I think she's going to be a force. And Kaylin Whitney, I mean, there's a story to be written about Kaylin Whitney out there. Like, her journey and where she's been has been just remarkable. So you have a bunch of different stories here. Obviously, Kendall Ellis looks solid, finished ahead of Felix. The women who got, her 7th and 8th seeds, I think they're a long shot, but I think everybody else in that group, in that top 6, has a chance, has a puncher's chance. And obviously Felix is right in there. And based on where she was before, that's going to be a success. I think she's going to find her way into the top 3. She may not win, but I mean, who are you picking to win? Who are you picking to win? It's a tough team to pick right now.
Well, I had Irby winning, but I'm kind of thinking Quinera Hayes. And the reason why I kind of fell off I was never on the Quinera Hayes bandwagon, and then I got shamed to be in it because she ran 49 seconds in like April. But then she didn't run since, so I was like, oh, maybe she's hurt. But clearly she's not. She's running 50.0. So Quinera Hayes, I think Quinera Hayes is the favorite. I think she ran really well here. I think she's the only one to run 49 seconds this year outside of obviously a thing Mo. So got to go with her. And big shout out, like we said, to the 7th and 8th seats here, Taylor Manson and Shay Anderson. Manson from college. Florida, Anderson from UCLA, 2 college kids. They're in the top 8, and because of the co-ed relay, they're going to take 8 people who are 400-meter runners to the Olympics. So Manson and Anderson, they're Olympians, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the fun part about trials, right? Those stories like that are so much fun to follow, to people who started off the year as, oh man, they're a really great collegiate runner, and then now all of a sudden, their season could end in Tokyo. That's pretty exciting.
Hey Kevin, can I break some news to you?
We're doing some breaking news right now on the pod. Yeah, go ahead, Gordon.
The Bucks won. And
Dear District, where are you at? Dear District.
Yeah,
Mick Byrne.
You're welcome.
Morgan McDonald. Alicia Monson. Who else is from Wisconsin?
You're not even a Bucks fan. Come on.
Maverick Darling. All right, let's keep moving.
Keep moving.
Let's go to the women's 1500, men's 1500. Listen, we said, hey, things are going to get crazy in those 1500 and 800 prelims. Yeah, you might have been bored by the first round, but wait till the second round. There's going to be all sorts of crazy upsets. And that didn't happen, Gordon. That did not happen. So Take this opportunity right now to apologize to all the listeners and viewers out there who trust you.
I never said I didn't say crazy upsets. That's just a phrase that people think that could happen. But I never predicted chaos. Come on, don't put that on me. I am bummed out for our fellow Austinite, Sarah Lancaster, who just happened to be in the slower heat. She was 7th in her heat. You got to think that if she was maybe in the second heat and got 7th in that heat, then she probably would have qualified. I think on the women's side, the only notable that I was like, wow, is Heather McLean of New Balance Boston. She's the first one out. She's been running well. She trains with Elle Purier. She's been running well. She's been running 4.0s consistently in the 1500. I thought she would make a final. And then surprise making a final, I think I got to give it to I don't know. But Rebecca Mara, probably. Yeah, Rebecca Mara. She's mainly an 800-meter runner. I mean, that's what she ran well in the 800 in 2019. For her to sneak in to the final is pretty impressive. But everyone else is expected to be there, like the Simpsons, Schlockterhoffens, Johnson, Osika, McGee, Hiltz, Purier, etc. Yeah,
I was surprised. Haymock was my big surprise from Stanford because Anna Camp Bennett just won the NCAA title. Haymock fell though, so a little bit of redemption here. And Whitney Orton goes by Whitney Morgan now. was ahead of her by a decent distance heading into the final 100 and then got caught for that final spot. But if you had told me at the beginning of the year Mara was going to make it, I'd believe it just based on how well she ran last year in the 8. Schlachterhofen makes sense. Danny Aragon, we saw how well she ran against Simpson and got the winner this year. Simpson ran pretty well, Gordon. Simpson ran. I watched that race. I was looking, if I didn't know anything about Jenny Simpson's season, that's the headspace I put myself into. If I did not know about her struggles this year, would I think she's still the same Jenny Simpson? And I think I would. I think I would. Like, it looked like a very economical prelim.
I don't know, man. It still kind of feels like fool's gold. I don't know. I mean, because in her field, who does she beat that's like notable that you can think can make a team?
It's not about beating. It doesn't matter about beating. It's about advancing and how you look when you advance. And she was second. She was second in that heat behind Purrier. Purrier looks like the class of the field. Don't get me wrong. Purrier's race was an incredible show of strength, I thought.
Yeah.
That was hey, I'm not leaving anything to chance. I'm super confident. I'm not worried at all. But she doesn't need to get first. She just needs to get top 3. I think she's more in the mix than I thought she was going into this weekend, is all I'm saying.
Well, but like you look at who she beat, like the other heat, it has the other. No, yeah, but it does, because the other heat has the heat. It has the athletes that are more likely to finish second and third behind Purrier. They have Hiltz, Sinclair Johnson, Osika, Danny Jones, Corey McGee. It's just more people. Like, no one was predicting Danny Aragon was going to be top 3. No one, Rebecca Mara. Maybe Schlachterhofen, you could argue. But other than that, like, I don't know. I just think that
she was cruising. I think she would have been fine in the other heat. She may not have won. She might have been behind Hiltz, behind McGee, and now it's a 12 person race.
Yeah, I think she would have finished 5th. I feel like she would have finished 5th in the other heat, not 2nd.
Okay, and she's moving on, and it's a 12 person final. She's got to figure out a way to get top 3. That's all there is to it. I think she's going to go back home or to the hotel room, and she's smart, and she's going to strategize this thing, and she's going to game out all the possibilities, and she's going to try to master tactician her way to a top 3 finish. She might run it in a different way than she's run before, but the idea that she was just going to be DOA in these trials is obviously not true.
Yeah,
you could fake it in the first round. You could not fake it in this round. If she just didn't have it, we would have seen it by now. She may not have enough. It still may not be enough because it's a deep field. And Corey McGee, one of my picks, by the way, looked pretty good.
And we also, though, have to, elephant in the room, right? There's no Shelby Houlihan. So there's really only one superstar right now in this field, and that's El Purrier and everyone. Right. So it's like, it's become like a very different field. And like we said, Rebecca Mara making it in that 1500. I'll see you on freaking Monday. Who says that? Have you ever said, I'll see you on freaking Monday? Like, I guess that's what you say when someone emails you at work at like 4:30 on Friday. Is like, I'll just see you on freaking Monday, man. I'm not answering this email.
Ben, I think Rebecca Mara tweeted a sentence that's never been written before, and I think that's an impressive feat. She did that, and she made the 1500 meter final at the Olympic trials in the same day. I do not think anybody's ever put those words together in a sentence before. So.
Has anyone been excited for a Monday? Like,
no.
I guess maybe
Listen, if you were going to say it sarcastically, it would have been another word that starts with F, not freaking. That's what you would have said. True. So I don't think this group of words has ever been put together in one sentence before. Questions in the chat here. We got one or a comment here. DC Knoll had a good one. Oh, man. I lost it. Where did it go? Purrier was always going to win, but I'm kind of baffled by why the field let Simpson's heat go so slow. You're handing her a spot. If you run a 4:10 pace, she won't lose a tactical race.
Yeah,
that's true. But if the issue with Simpson is her closing speed, then maybe the slow pace is going to be to her detriment at this point. The key is she's fit. I think the key is she's fit.
Well, the question is, can she run 4:03 right now?
Okay, but it's also how fast can she close? Correct?
But I don't care about that, because if you think
when she ran that 4:07, Daniel Aragon, she was ahead at the bell and then lost by a second to Daniel Aragon. So she needs both, right? She needs to be able to run that fast, and she needs to be able to close off of it, I think.
Let's talk a little bit about the 800.
800.
My boy Shane Strike. Hey
Good
man,
run.
he's eighth, he had the eighth fastest time, but because of the stupid qualifying system, he doesn't get to go because he's in a faster heat. Regardless, all the big guns went through. I guess the one notable that didn't qualify would be Brandon Miller of A&M. But at the same time, Brandon Miller, he's a freshman. He's already had a really long season, an incredible, NCAAs. For him to even make the final, I feel like that would have been the win. I don't think anyone had Miller as a potential top three. So he still had a great season. No, nothing to be ashamed of to get knocked out in this round when you have Kidder, Brazier, Murphy, Hopple, Harris, of those type of guys in this field.
Yeah, Hopple won the second heat over Harris and Jewett. Daniel Nixon of Iowa State, putting together a good meet. And then Samuel Voles of Notre Dame also qualified. First heat was Murphy and Brazier across the line, and then Kidder. We're going to get into this conversation again and how did they look, and we're going to try to read the tea leaves between, like, was that a spry Bryce Hopple, or is there an issue? And what about Donovan Brazier? Did he have as much pop? I think we're looking at the same group that we thought. I think one guy is out now because Miller, I thought, had the capability. He had that upside potential to be able to do it. But I think Brazier, Hopple, Murphy, Harris, and Isaiah Jewett, I think, is the group that can make it. And I'll give long shot status to Kidder, Voles, and Nixon. But did you think that you'd see more from the semis from Hopple or Brazier?
No, I mean, I think we got, they're not trying to go crazy right now. I think they just they ran like they're pros. They ran like, hey, just put yourself in position, make sure you're far enough away from fourth in your field, and you should be fine. Mm-hmm. I do want to talk about one thing, though, about this. So, if you had to pick a list of people who do you think can be top three, tell me where I'm wrong. I would say people will probably say these six people can be top three: Murphy, Brazier, Kidder, Hopple, Harris, and Jewett. Would you agree? I don't think people think Daniel Nixon or Sam Voles of Iowa State and Notre Dame are making the team, correct?
Yeah, I think. And Kidder, I think Kidder would be a long shot.
I said it. Those six: Brazier, Murphy, Kidder, Hopple, Harris, and Jewett.
Yeah,
five of those guys.
I'd probably put Kidder on the other side, is all I'm saying. I mean, it's
okay, regardless.
Whatever. Yes, go ahead.
Five of those guys have the standard. One of them does not, and that is Isaiah Harris.
Again? We're doing this again?
We could. I'm just saying, the standard is 145.2. Is there a chance
what's
third
his
place
ranking
in this race could be 145.21 and he doesn't have the standard? Do you think it could happen?
Yes, because it happened in 2019 and he had to go out hard, which was out of character for him because he knew he needed to have the standard and top three, and it didn't work. But what's his world ranking? Is he on IAAF right now trying to figure it out? Has he called you? Because you seem to know more about world rankings than anybody else. Like,
so I can tell you. So
does he need to get it?
So
because that's going to change the race dramatically.
Currently, the 48th
Isaiah, listen to
rank.
This. Isaiah,
currently
listen to this part.
There are 48 people who get to go to the Olympics. Most of them have the standard, but to go down to fill the field to 48, 3 per country, the 48th person has a ranking that is 1,188 points.
Okay.
The amount of points he currently has is 1,242 points. So, in order for him to not to get it, he would need, which puts him about like 38th. He would need 10 people from certain countries to improve their ranking past that number, or all get the standard. So he's in good hands. I'm trying to say it's not that big of a deal. But what it is when this happens, you hope the broadcast understands that he is not,
but Can he improve his own ranking?
Yes, he can improve his own ranking.
So it's not just one-sided.
No, yeah. And it will improve because if he gets third, that'll improve it. I'm just saying for the people who are watching and they see him without the Olympic rings next to his name, and will they give him a flag or not? They need to say, like, there's probably a 90%, 95% chance he'll get in on ranking. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. You can't be wrong on this because I just told him to watch and tune into this part to get some good information here. And we have David in the chat says, I do think Gordon is the only person who understands world rankings. And there's like 6 people probably. And
yeah, well, I'm just saying it's going to be a thing, right? We have yet to have. First of all, these world rankings are off. You need to change the date, man. You got to go to June 15th. That's
okay. Anyway,
the rankings he was showing were, yeah.
Okay, whatever. Here's what I want to know from you. If your financial future was tied into Isaiah Harris's performance in this race, would you tell him to go out and try to get the standard in this race in the final? Or would you say that that's not a smart idea, that he should just run a race as normal, and if he gets top 3, he'll go because you're confident in his world ranking? Which would you do?
As the great Sam Hinkie said, trust the process. He should just trust the ranking. Trust the ranking, and he'll be fine. He's not close to the bubble. He's ranked. Okay. Yeah, he'll be fine. I think he'll be fine. Okay.
And just what's your address and phone number if this ends up being wrong? Just look right in the camera, and can you tell Isaiah?
I live on East 11th Street in Austin, Texas. I won't tell you the number. I do live in the forest.
This is interesting.
You're gonna sleep in the spare bedroom, right? Isn't that the plan? If we go too late.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. By day 5, I might have to be sleeping here. Let's transition now to the opening round of the men's 100, where we saw Trayvon Bromell run 9.84 wind aided, and he turned to look across the track and make sure his victory was assured. In that same heat, Justin Gatlin ran 9.93 and Michael Williams ran 9.95. Ronnie Baker runs 9.88 legal, and Fred Curley goes 9.93. Noah Lyles in that heat ran 9.95, and then Marvin Bracey and Kenny Bednarik won the other 2 heats. What was your takeaway from the opening round, Gordon?
Takeaway is Curley did not make a bonehead decision. He may have. It's not like he is clearly going to be able to make this final. I think he's running well enough that he should at least be top 6 to make that 4x1. Will he get 3rd or 2nd? I don't know. Anything can happen, but he didn't have a like, "Whoa, man, what are you doing here?" He had a good race, 9.93, 1.9 wind. He did lose to Baker, which is kind of interesting because Baker talked about Curley racing him. He runs basically the same time as Justin Gatlin. This picking this team is going to be really hard. I mean, I'm really excited to see who actually makes the final, because the question is, there are guys who didn't run as fast, but they did well in their heats, like Marvin Bracey, Kenny B, Isaiah Young. Yeah. And I'm kind of excited to see how these semifinals play out. We know Bromell is going to win. Nothing's changing that unless something crazy happens. Yeah. But I really think I can think of 10 to 15 different combinations of who gets 2nd and 3rd in these final. I have no faith. There's no one over 50% chance to get 2nd or 3rd. Everyone is under 50%.
Yeah, that's
except Bromell.
I think the big takeaway came actually in the press conference about Noah Lyles when he said everything that he does is preparation for the 200, and he recounted a conversation that he had with his mom, and she's like, "Well, why are you worried about the 100?" And he talked about how he wasn't worried at all for the 200, and she said, "Well, why are you worried about your side chick?" That's not my quote. That was Lyles's quote about what his mom said to him. So clearly the focus is on the 200. So I think that means we need to lower our expectations about what he thinks he can do in the 100. And it's coming at a time the event is just remarkably deep too. And I mean, even if Lyles was on top of his game, I don't think he'd be a lock. He'd be in that group. But right now, with how Curley's running, how Baker's running, how Gatlin's running, how Bracey's running, and obviously Bromell, it's going to be a stacked final. I also wanted to wish hopefully get well soon and not that bad of an injury to Jalen Slade. It looked really bad when he pulled up. You made a loud noise, like damn, basically. When it happened, when I was watching it with you, it looked, I don't want to speculate on the injury, but when you saw it first, it looked really, really bad, but it did look like he was walking off on his own power, which I think is a good sign. But hopefully Jalen Slade, his first trials, he's able to have a speedy recovery.
Yeah, I thought something snapped is what it looked like at the flailing of it, but
yeah.
Luckily it seems like it wasn't anything like that. It looks like just when you're running so fast and you make one small weird step, you can kind of you can just lose your balance and it can look a lot worse than it really is because you're just going at such a fast speed. But he's fine, which is good. He's young. Should see him in that 200. Should be good.
Yeah. Someone in the chat asked thoughts on Matt Bowling. He made it. He advanced.
Yeah.
Small Q there. He ran 10.13. He was fifth in his heat, the third heat. Obviously, he'd have to really outperform his seed time to make the final.
Yeah.
He did not get a good start. He did not get a good start.
He didn't. Yeah.
He was behind.
Anyone not make it? I mean, Kendall Williams didn't make it, but Rodney Rowe, a couple of college guys. It wasn't other too many crazy DNQs did not qualify. Mm-hmm. What happens in the semis will be kind of monumental. We'll kind of talk about that at the end of the pod, previewing those semifinals.
Yeah, so real quick on the 100 hurdles, Kenny Harrison, 10:49. Brianna McNeil, 12:51. So she'll be advancing. Remember, she's running in this meet while her case is still before CAS. So there's a possibility that she could make the team but not compete at the Olympics because the CAS decision has not been handed down and she was allowed to compete in this meet under the conditions that, the CAS decision obviously will impact whether or not she runs in Tokyo. But running 12:51 in your debut, because you had no idea what to expect from her. You didn't know what sort of shape she was in. You didn't know what she thought was going to happen with her appeal, whether or not she was in really good shape. But she opened with a time 12:50. Actually, I'm seeing on here. I wrote down 12:51. Talia Brooks was solid. Anna Cockrell, 12:63. Renea Jones. Dawn Harper Nelson didn't make it out. That was like the one big name who did not advance.
What do you think will happen? Let's assume McNeil makes the team, and she has this whole potential 5-year ban, hanging over her head with a CAS decision, which we have no idea when that appeal will end, and all that not good stuff, but all that mumbo jumbo lawyer stuff. So, like, if you're finishing fourth in this race, what should USATF do? What should the track community respond to? How should the athletes react? Like, what do you think is going to happen, and how do you think people are going to react to it?
I think the decision is going to come out sometime between when this meet concludes and when the Olympics start. I guess it would be probably closer to when this meet concludes and when the Olympics start, because you'd want to give somebody fair warning to get prepared. But if you finish fourth, I think you think that there's at least a solid chance that you end up running in Tokyo. I do not know. There has not been any real information about this case other than what the charge was. And we know that she had a 1-year suspension for whereabouts failures earlier in her career. And she had a sentence reduced to 1 year, but she had to sit out for an entire year. So this is her second issue with it, which is why the ban is potentially longer. If you're an opponent, it probably feels surreal because you probably trained your whole life for this and you're going to get a moment and you don't know how it's going to go down. And it's going to be really unpredictable. But as far as USATF, I mean, this was the decision that was put in play. They could not, I don't think they could unilaterally say you're not allowed to run. I think they had to follow the code, just as they had to follow the code with Houlihan and not allow Houlihan to run. Yeah.
I mean, we'll end up talking about this tomorrow more, but if she makes it, and it would be in McNeil's best interest to let the process play out as long as possible, to not fast forward. It's just like, hey, let me know.
Well, she's not. There's no. It's already in. I think we're just waiting.
It's in, but we don't know when. How long we know, because it'll be. What if it gets delayed, and we don't find out the rule. Like, is Cass Cass is going to go off of their own timeline? So that
No, I
fourth
think
place
they're not.
person be like, hey, if you don't give us the answer soon enough, I won't be able to book my plane ticket in time. Like, that'll be a situation.
I think where they can, they time these things around championships, and it was something that was in the release that they'd be able to get the decision figured out before the Olympics. And when I hear before the Olympics, I don't think a day before the Olympics. I think weeks before, to give people ample time. I think they'll be able to do it. It's my understanding that the case has been like they just need to give the ruling at this point, right? They need to.
I think you're giving Cass a benefit of doubt. They take forever to do everything, man. Like, I don't think they're gonna be right.
But look at when this case popped up, though. Look at when we first heard about this case. It was a while ago. They've had this one for a fair bit of time, and I don't think
why have they wait till now to figure it out.
Well, I think you can only speed it up to a point. And I think they say, okay, the trials she can run and we can still maintain some level of integrity around the event, because if we just have to take top four, it would just be like someone got injured, right? Or some other issue came up and then you put the next person in. So, I mean, this is only an issue now because she looks really good and looks like she's going to make the team. If she went out there and ran 12.9, obviously it would not have been as big of a deal, but now it becomes an even bigger deal. Do you want to talk about other news, non-event news from today? We'll start with trials related stuff. So Colleen Quigley scratched from the steeplechase. And then Athingmo obviously went pro, and Terrence Laird signed with Adidas. That was 2 days ago, but we're just getting to it now. Let's start first with the Quigley scratch. Were you surprised?
Yes and no. We both, when we were making our picks on the Quigley situation, we were like, I don't know. Is she healthy? Why is she not running? Let's just trust it. And you went with the Quigley pick. And I was like, I think she's going to end up not running. And I went with the Wayment as my third. So it doesn't really surprise me when you haven't run since February.
Yeah.
It makes sense. The only thing that's surprising is, like, why do you wait till after you already declared? Like, if you didn't know by now, wouldn't you have known like 3 days ago? Like, I mean, I don't know how. Maybe there was that extra chance you needed one extra day to figure it out. But you would think, if you're deciding now, why did you declare in the first place? I don't know. I guess
because you're hoping deadline to declare together. You're hoping that it comes together. That's what you're doing, and you're putting everything together with duct tape and trying to see if you can figure out a way to do it. And then you do one last workout to test it, and it doesn't go well, and you think, there's no chance of it working out, so I might as well scratch. This is what makes the Olympic trials so difficult to forecast, because some people you don't see for several months or even a year, and then they show up at the trials and they're as fast as they were before, and you look like a fool doubting them. And then some people, they don't run for a while. You don't see them in any results. They come to the trials and scratch or run poorly, and then you're like, well, this was obvious. Why did we think that she was going to run? But it's because you have all these different scenarios, all these different cases, and people's injury timelines are so different. But there was a big 3 in the women's steeplechase, and now it's down to a big 2. And I think there's 8 women who can get that third spot. It's going to be really, really interesting for that third and final spot. I think 9:20 now will qualify. We'll be able to be good enough. I think if someone runs that quick, which is no guarantee, I think that will make it. Whereas Quigley, if she was, in form, she'd probably run high 19s, I would guess. 9 teens, that is. 9 high teens.
Yeah.
That's really a tongue twister to say. But you know what I mean? Like Constian, Marissa Howard, you mentioned Wayment, of course, Leah Falland, Rainsberg you put in there, Mahala Norris, et cetera, that group.
Yeah, it's the end of, I mean, maybe we'll still have the big 3 era next year. Maybe she'll be able to come back by 2022. But you got to think, if whoever is that third place finisher, it's going to be a huge momentum for their career. They're going to get all that experience, and they probably will get better. And I think if Quigley then comes back, it won't be a sure thing that the top 3 are going to be Frericks, Coburn, and Quigley, because whoever this newcomer becomes will just have this new mojo going into the next Olympic cycle.
That's a great point. I think back to 2015, Nick Simmons didn't run. There was that dispute with USATF. Who makes the team, Gordon?
Clayton Murphy.
Clayton Murphy takes that spot, goes on to get and Olympic medal. Let's go international real quick, and then we'll go back to the trials. Wade van Niekerk ran today at the Continental Tour meet in Madrid on the green track in Madrid. I like it. I like the green track. He goes 44.56. Now, he doesn't win, but the guy he loses to, Zambrano, I think is the most underrated 400 guy in the world. Very quietly won silver in Doha behind Stephen Gardner and ahead of Fred Curley. So I think this is a pretty good result for Van Niekerk. I think him mixing it up with some of the best in the world, getting reps is good experience. You can see there if you're watching it, Zambrano pulled even in about the last 50 and just edged him out there. So is this the Wade van Niekerk from the world record version of Wade van Niekerk? No. Is this a Wade van Niekerk who can still medal? Absolutely, because we've seen, 44s are kind of across the board other than Randolph Ross at NCAAs. 44s has been what everybody's been dishing out this year in this event.
Yeah, I think he has a chance to kind of hold on to one last strong medal type performance. Maybe he has another one after that, but this definitely will be his last Olympics that he is potential to win an Olympic gold, I think. I don't know if he'll be able to hold on to this all the way through 2024. We look good there. As Lincoln, was it Lincoln who was all on the anti-Van Niekerk train? Yeah, he called him done, and all the South African stands out there went crazy on Lincoln. But I wonder, what do you think Lincoln's reaction is to this race? Because he was dead
I'd have to go back and look at the tape, but I don't know if he was saying he was done as a world record and gold medal threat, or if he's talking about just done, like he's not going to make the Olympics. Because if he's not going to make the Olympics or make a final, obviously that was preemptive on Lincoln's part. But my thing was he didn't need to get back down to that level. He didn't need to run 43.03 and still be a factor in this event. In fact, he could win gold running much slower than that. And you think somebody's going to pop something, whether or not it's Norman, whether or not it's Gardner, whether or not it's Zambrano, somebody's going to get something going here in the 43 seconds. But Van Niekerk just keeps himself in the mix. He didn't have a 400-meter qualifier. So, Lincoln, and he's not here anymore, so we can run back his old takes here. There he is with that. Remember, he wear a hat every podcast too? Man, I miss that guy. But yeah, he is when Van Niekerk done. It's pretty explicitly written there. There was no caveats there. It's like, no. And then remember, a couple of days after that, Van Niekerk started posting on social media, #NotDoneYet. He had a whole infographic package. There we go. It was a Gordon troll level response. It was something that we'd see from some of these SIDs responding to some of your outlandish comments. Okay, Timothy Chariot. This actually is the biggest, most impactful, potentially important result of the entire day. He got beat at the Kenyan trials and didn't just get beat. He finished as fourth, which is insanely rare for Timothy Chariot to not finish in the top three in a competition. Supposedly he's hurt. Supposedly he's not going to be named to the Olympic team, which would be an absolute stunner. The ripple effects would be immense. It would obviously be huge for Jacob Ingebrigtsen, but it would open up that entire event because we don't even know if Jacob Ingebrigtsen's going to run the 15. You think that if Chariot's out that he would go there, but maybe he wants to run the 5 after running 12:48, in which case just throw your hands up and say, I don't know who's going to win. Maybe Yared Nuguse is going to win the gold medal. I don't know. This is crazy, Gordon. I did not anticipate Timothy Chariot not making the Kenyan team. I will say they've changed their mind before on Olympic selections, so I still think he's going to end up on the start line. That's my prediction.
Well, here's the thing. If you go back on the Athletics Kenya, they listed who they have on the team.
Yeah, and I think they'll change that.
The rules that they had were top 2 were auto, and the third place is chosen by a committee. And they tweeted out the 1,500-meter team, and they didn't. They tweeted out 3 names. So Charles Samotu, Kamar Ityang, and Abel Kipsang.
Yeah, I don't care.
I don't
care that they've named.
They're going to just like kick.
Yes, I do. You've seen this happen before with Saruni, right?
Yeah, but that was different though. They never named Saruni. Okay. They named 2. They named 2 at-large people. This is what they did, and they didn't know that you can't send a team of 5, so they screwed it up. But
they also one year didn't send Mary Katani in the marathon, which was still one of the most baffling decisions I've ever seen in track and field. So I'm just saying, if they change their mind, do not be surprised. I think the only way he doesn't get picked or he didn't get picked if there's information about a very serious injury that he doesn't think can get right in the next month, because Olympics are relatively close. So I could see, hey, he's banged up and we're going to send a different team. But this would be huge. I mean, this is a massive favorite. This is the equivalent to you'd look at Sifan Hassan scratching an event, or not making her country's team. That's the level of dominance that Chariot had.
Or like Mo Farah in his prime being like, I'm only going to do the 5K this year. You're like, whoa, 10K just became open, So.
Yeah. All right.
Chezarek was at that meet. He tried to qualify in the 10K and 5K, did not make it. But that was his first time of officially saying, hey, I'm going to attempt to choose one country, and he chose Kenya because he wasn't able to get his U.S. citizenship in time for the Olympics. But hopefully Ches finds a way to rebound and make the team next year in 2022 and actually run in front of his – it would be the first time ever at Eugene, if he were to make the team, where like the hometown team is cheering for the opponent in Kenya, which would be kind of cool. See like Chezarek running for representing Kenya. So we have to wait till 2022 for that though. Anyway. Final thing, let's preview tomorrow. Is that what we're doing?
Tomorrow? Tell Travis so he knows.
I'm telling Travis. Travis, we're going to preview tomorrow. We'll start with the women's 100 hurdles. Looking at the field, the two semifinals. Travis, bring up the semifinal heats. There you go. You see McNeil, Marshall, Nelvis, I guess, has been running. Not that. I think Heat 2 is probably the harder heat because it has the heat with Kenny Harrison. And What's Harrison called? Is going to win the death heat.
There you go.
So Heat 2 here, it's a death heat with Cockrell and Harrison. What are your thoughts? Nothing too crazy, I think, in this heat. Yeah,
I agree with that. I mean, the person I think could influence things the most would be Tania Marshall if she gets it going again. Today she ran just a 12:76 and got third in her heat, but she's run 12:4 this year. So that would be the person I would keep my eye on just in the semis of, okay, maybe she's getting her legs back under her. She scratched that NCAA final. She could get down to that 12:4 range, which is enough to make the team. Then we're looking at the women's 400. So we have Elaine.
No, men's 100.
Oh, men's 100. Well, I want to save that for last for the actual final.
Okay. Well, all right. I'll do women's 4 then. Save the men's 100 for last.
Women's 400: Irby, Manson, Anderson, Jonathan Hayes, Ellis, Felix in 8, and Whitney in 9. So Felix will be way on the outside there and running blind for a good portion of it. Although Whitney's been running well, so she's probably a good person to have out there to chase. Like, she'll be a good marker for her.
Yeah. Hayes, I like in 6. She got a good heat, good lane. I don't know. We've seen these women now run twice already in the past 2 days. We just got to get this final one off the ground. We've already previewed that. I kind of want to more talk about some of the semifinals, right? We're talking about death heats.
Okay.
So let's talk about that 100 meter. Let's go right into the 100. All right. Let's try to predict the 100 meter final. Okay, so it's all 8. It's top 3 per heat with the 2 fastest on time. So let's go with heat 1 and let's pick our big Qs. We both got Bromell as a big Q, right?
Correct.
I think my big Qs are going to be Gatlin, Bednarik, and Bromell. What do you think?
Yes, I like that. And I think, man, I'm trying to decide which is the death heat, but they're pretty even here. I don't think there is a death heat in this one. Yeah, I think Bromell, obviously, Gatlin, and Bednarik. And I think Young is going to be real close. So it wouldn't surprise me if Young sneaks in a third. And I think Young will get it. I know we'll get to the small Qs in a second, but I think Young will be right there in that mix.
All right. Heat 2. I think it's going to be Baker, Bracey, and Curley who get the big Qs. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I have Baker and Bracey making the team. So obviously I'm sticking with them. And I think Curley showed enough today to where you'd say he's going to be in the top 3 in that heat.
Okay. Now here's the thing. 2 people get the time qualifier.
Yeah.
I would argue it's going to be between Isaiah Young, Michael Williams, and Noah Lyles. And I'm going to say it here. I think Noah Lyles does not make the final.
I think Lyles is going to.
Noah Lyles doesn't make the final.
I think he's going to do enough to get that last qualifying spot. So my small cues would be Young from the first heat, and I think Lyles will get it from the second heat. I think the start hasn't been great, but I think he has enough closing speed over the back half to get it done. But I'm not going to pick him to get top 3 once we get to the final at the end of the night. But I think he will make the final.
Michael Williams is running well, man. On his home track,
I agree.
He's been in those blocks all year long. He ran 10 flat in that prelim. Mm-hmm. I think Michael Williams and Isaiah Young get the 2 at large, and that's going to be the story. I think the story is going to be Noah Lyles doesn't make the final.
I think the story is going to be the top 3 from the final later on that night. Okay, that might be a story for half an hour, but then we're going to move past it and we're going to talk about it. Do you want to go full Michael Johnson and tell me about people who didn't look that confident today?
No, everyone looked confident.
Gordon's confidence
was key. A couple other people made the Olympic team.
Hold on, men's 400.
Valerie Allman. What about the 400?
The men's 400 finals tomorrow. We didn't talk about it.
Yeah, well, we've already talked about the 400 twice in the past day and a half. Norman's making the team. He's confident. He's been confident.
I want to revisit the picks and see if you want to make any changes. So I had Norman, Ross, and Cherry. You had Norman, Williams, and Ross. Do you want to change anything about your picks?
Well, I got to take Williams off.
Yes. Okay, good.
So I'll replace Williams with
dramatic pause.
Cherry.
Okay. So you have the same picks as me now. All right. That was not as interesting as I thought it was going to be. I will let you then direct the rest of the show.
I'll tell you who I was going to say. I'll tell you who I was going to say. I was going to say Godwin, but then I chickened out and I went with Cherry.
Then say it.
It's like when you're at, Rita's Italian Ice and you're trying to figure out. No, you ever go to the Italian Ice station and you're like, hey, I don't know what flavor I want. And you're like, ooh, root beer. Oh, vanilla, coconut, all these different flavors. And you're like, cherry. And you just go with cherry. And then you walk out the door with the cherry Italian Ice. And you're happy. And you sit on the beach eating the plain old cherry Italian Ice. And that's what I'm doing here in this 400.
With Michael Cherry.
With Michael Cherry, yeah.
Okay. I see how it all got tied together there. All right. What else did you want to close with?
Well, there's other Olympians that were just announced. The women's discus throw, Valerie Allman. Mm-hmm. Congrats. I mean, she obviously was going to make the team. She's the American record holder. But it is an interesting thing. If you bring up the results, first, third, and fifth have this standard. So the question is, does Michaela Hazelwood have a good enough world ranking to get in? So it's time for Do You Have a World Ranking? It's a new segment I just created.
Okay, go ahead.
So what her name, I'm going to look it up right now as you do. Her name is Hazelwood, right? Hazelwood?
Yeah, that's what you said. You really sold this segment.
So she currently is ranked around like the 44 area. And she needs to be in the top 32.
Okay.
So I have a feeling that it's not going to be enough. However, I've been wrong before. So she is kind of on the bubble with world ranking. I'm going to go 50% chance they take the fifth person because they had the world standard and not the second person who has a so-so world ranking. Do you have the world rankings presented by no one?
That was a great first or second or third installment of that segment there. We're going to go in a second, but if you got questions, put them in the chat. Put them in the chat right now. Richard says, what happened to Terrence Slater in the 100? Did he opt for only the 200? Yes, that is correct. Trevor says, don't see Godwin's form holding up in the finals. Last 100 will be brutal. I like the way he runs, though, and I think it's cool. When the 400, it has to have at least one person who's really aggressive. So that's interesting. I also saw Heather McLean Gordon has been added back to the 1500. So they'll have 13 women in there. So she advanced via protest. I saw Chris Chavez tweet that, and I checked on the list, and she had a small Q next to her name. Craig says, would have loved to see Fan Boulay in the 200. He's competing for Liberia. Yeah. He announced on his Instagram. So you'll get to see him in the Olympics, which is going to be awesome too.
Fast track.
We'll have to wait, but it'll be very cool to see him at the Olympics. I don't know. Do you have a 400 time prediction, Gordon?
44:01.
Okay, so no sub 44. Yeah. I'm guessing you're going to say sub 50 for the women though, because Quinair Hayes almost did it tonight.
Yeah, I'll go 49.98 for the women.
49.98, but man, no sub 44. That would be pretty crazy. All right, we'll be back tomorrow.
Yo, can we show Valerie Allman's Instagram again on the screen?
Oh, Brendan wants to know if Sixers are winning games. Hold on, Brendan wants to know if Sixers are winning Game 7.
Yeah, they've already won it. I've seen into the future, and right, if not, you will see me on the podcast. Want to blow my brains out. Anyway, what I would say, Valerie Allman, look how she does her. Yeah, I was about to do a bit. Look at her Instagram, the way she does her hashtags. Like, this is some interesting hashtags. Like, some of them make sense. Dream come true. Mm-hmm. Hashtag discus throw. I guess that's the event. Tokyo 2020. I get it, even though it's 2021. Team USA. But then you have like hashtag sports, hashtag power. What is that? Hashtag grateful. I guess that's like a hashtag blessed. But hashtag sports is a unique one. Like, how many people are searching sports on Instagram searching? And then it'll be like, oh, thank God I showed up and Valerie Allman giving me the content I wanted, the sports content. So it's a unique choice of trying to beat the algorithm.
One more comment here. Adelia says, so are all the finalists in the 400 now alternates for the 4x4 and mixed relay? Yes, we believe they are. Although in 2019, they took 7 of the 8, but I think they might just go all 8 because you have the mixed gender relay and the 4x4. So if you want to be real sure, beat one person, but you're probably good in the 4x4. 4x1 top 6 has been the traditional strategy.
Yeah.
So Trevor says you forgot Terrence Laird Adidas news. Yeah, we mentioned that briefly with a Thing Mo going. Oh, Thing Mo. We didn't talk about Thing Mo going pro either. We went right over that.
I mean, makes sense, right? She went pro.
Yeah, didn't announce a sponsor, did not announce a training group, but she waved goodbye to her NCAA career on her Instagram post that she made late last night. So not surprising when you run as fast as she has. There's not much left to accomplish in college, and with her, you can say that literally. It's not as if, I won one NCAA title. There's nothing left to accomplish. It's no, when you set collegiate records in 2 events and you win a bunch of NCAA titles and you're head and shoulders above everybody else, then you clearly have proven everything you can prove in college. So we'll see her in the 800. I'm guessing she'd have a new kit by then. Like this is the behind the scenes part of the trials that people don't see too much about is the agents negotiating and trying to figure out where different people are going, because you want that exposure immediately, and you want that exposure in the biggest meet so far, which is the Olympic trials, and second biggest meet of the entire year. You don't want to waste an opportunity. So they're probably sorting that all out, and we'll see by the time she runs the 800 meter first round.
I think Mo's going to go down. Like, she's going to be a fun fact in like year 2050. Be like, who's the one like all-time great American 800 meter runner to never win an 800 meter NCAA title? And it will be a Thing Mo, because she chose not to do it, which is wild.
Just the ultimate flex there for a Thing Mo throughout her very short but amazing collegiate career. We'll leave it there. Thanks everybody for tuning in on the chat. We'll be back tomorrow again. Sprint heavy day tomorrow. So we'll be talking all the sprints, also steeple prelim as well, I believe. Thanks to Colt for producing and Travis for all the amazing graphics. I'm Kevin. He's Gordon. Subscribe to the FloTrack Podcast YouTube channel, and we will talk to you on Sunday.
Go Sixers.